Welcome back to Living in Infinity, episode 14. Today we have uh, a long list of stuff to cover. Some AI stuff, some business stuff. I think we're going to start with the newest update from OpenAI and ChatGPT. So, Alec, you want to get
Yeah,
into that a little bit?
yeah, we were just talking about it before this. It's cool to see OpenAI and I guess more specifically ChatGPT starting to put out some major updates again. Um, this is what we've been waiting on kind of for a while because when they first announced GPT-4 uh, several months ago at this point, they had referenced multiple times that it had the ability, like it was multimodal, meaning it could take in text, images, and videos. But the image and video portion wasn't really available to the public. They just kind of like showed some brief examples, but ultimately said that it wasn't ready yet. Um, but the update that they just put out yesterday, um, now ChatGPT can see images that you send to it. It can hear you speak, and it can even speak back as well. So it's becoming this, more sentient AI in a way where you can actually converse with it and it can see things that you're seeing based on the images that you send to it. Um, so like the video demo that they did, and for those of you that haven't seen it, um, they basically just uploaded a picture of their bike and said, help me lower my bike seat. I can't figure out how to do it, and it can analyze the image, see every aspect that's within the image, and basically be able to like break it down and provide whatever advice needed based on what you're asking. And so yeah, super cool. I'm excited to try this out. It should be coming out like it should be rolling out over the next 2 weeks, is what they said. But um, one thing that I thought was like really interesting about it was I wonder what's going to happen to people's like critical thinking skills as this gets more integrated in our daily lives. Like for example, that video that the video demo they did, like you don't even have to make an attempt to figure something out yourself if you don't know how. You could just like take a picture of it, upload it to ChatGPT and say, "Help me do this," and it'll just give you full list of instructions, which I think is a great thing. But it also like I guess as this gets more integrated into our lives, like how much are we just gonna defer to AI to figure out for us instead of us just like trying to do things ourselves, you know?
Yeah. I think there's probably two sides of it. Like, I think we're in a generation now where if something's broken, we just go buy a new one, as compared to fixing it. That's partly because it's probably sometimes cheaper and to go buy a new one, or it's easier, or we don't know how to fix it. But maybe now, since we can just take photos of it and get instructions, like maybe now we'll be more willing to try and fix stuff. So
Yeah, for sure. Overall, it's a great thing, and I'm really excited to try it out. And uh, like you mentioned before, that it's basically everything that Siri has always dreamed to be, but Siri has never really progressed a whole lot since it came out. Which actually Siri just got activated on my phone. But yeah, I think it could be something like clearly OpenAI wants to make this something that is very integrated into our lives. Like ChatGPT right now, it's really only something you have to like use, I guess, with like a high level of intent, whether it's like through work or like you have something very specific you want to ask it that you need help with. It's not something that you're just using like constantly throughout the day, at least for me. But now that it can actually, how you can just easily chat with it and have a conversation with it, that takes out a big barrier of having to type things, and then also being able to send pictures makes things a lot more interesting too.
do you think it's almost like at this point it is almost going to be like integrated with our conscious at some point? Uh, because like, okay, let's say this technology gets put into like a contact, and so then it can always just constantly see what you see, and then you can just like 24/7 engage with this thing. Uh, you'd have like
Yes.
a super conscience. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's that's definitely within the realm of possibility for the future, for sure. I mean, I think what we'll see in the coming years is some sort of, and I made this prediction uh, earlier this year. I made a tweet about it. I think OpenAI will release a hardware product uh, within the coming years. I don't think it'll be anytime soon, but definitely within the next, say, 1 to 3 years, I would put it. Um, it could be some sort of like just some glasses or something that constantly looking at things that you see, or even doesn't even have to be constantly looking. It could just be like instead of having to take out your phone and take a picture, it's just already there. Uh,
Yeah.
and you could just converse with it at any time. It can see the things that you're seeing, and it's just like always readily available.
So there's a good discussion. You should, I'd recommend check it out. It's Jordan Peterson, and I'm not sure who his guest was. Some guy who's doing a lot of research on ChatGPT and stuff. But basically, they had a good discussion about whether they were talking about this hypothetical where we're integrated with AI, and they were talking about how it seems like uh, our access to AI needs to be localized. So, like,
Mhm.
you can have the ability to engage with this thing 24/7, but all that engagement stays between you and the AI.
Yeah,
Because if the AI, like, if we're just like using OpenAI's like network per se, then basically they'll just know everything about us all the time.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So I don't
I
know how that what needs to happen to set that up, but that's something that seriously needs to be addressed.
yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of models out there now, not OpenAI models, but a lot of I guess third party open source models that are being developed and been released that you can use locally. No internet connection, everything just runs on your laptop or something. Now, granted, they are not uh, near as advanced as something like GPT-4, but uh, it's I think especially as it gets more integrated into our lives, that has to be the case because there's already lots of concerns with OpenAI and their data usage. Like a lot of people are, they don't want anything they put into OpenAI, they don't want that to be stored and be used to train future models. Because it is just like, depending on what you're putting into it, could be like a big invasion of privacy. Like a lot of people maybe want to use it for like personal health reasons, like using GPT-4 as, a personal therapist. I've seen a lot of Twitter threads about that of people using it. Um, and even with this new voice mode where you can speak with it, it just takes that to like a whole new level of, I guess, intimacy in a way. It's like you're talking to a person, like I watched the video demo of the voice mode and it sounds so real. And like just the cadence of the way they speak, you would never know that it was AI. Like it just sounds, and they have several different voices too. So you can kind of pick, what you want it to sound like. Um, we're starting to reach the scary levels of I think. Um, do you remember that video I sent of the AI translation?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was wild. Like you can just record a video of yourself talking about whatever, pick a language, and then the AI will adapt the video to where the voice, it's your voice, it's just speaking another language. And then also the mouth movements would match up with whatever you're saying. And it was like damn near perfect. Um, so we're starting to get to like the
And
area of AI where things are just kind of getting weird.
yeah, because the implication there is that it appears that the ability for like highly realistic deepfakes is
Yeah.
here, and yeah, yeah,
I would say it pretty much is here. Like I've seen a lot of AI deepfakes that are not great. Like it's obvious that it's AI. But there's this new app circulating right now that I don't remember the name of it, but I just saw a clip of it this morning actually. It was you basically just take some videos of yourself and some pictures, I believe. So it knows your voice, it knows what you look like, and kind of learns all of that. and then you can just type in a script of what you want it to say, and it will then produce a video of you saying that, and it looks exactly like you, sounds exactly like you. You could like sort of tell that it was generated, but like we're already at that stage where it's getting really hard to
Yeah.
decipher. And
Yeah.
so 6 months from now, 12 months from now, it's probably going to be impossible to recognize.
Heh. Yeah. I don't know what we do about that.
I I don't know either, especially like yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Like
Right.
I don't think we are prepared for something like this at all. Like
Right. And with uh, a highly critical presidential election coming up,
yeah,
that's gonna potentially get interesting. Fun,
I
fun
think
times.
yeah, right. We're definitely at. I think the release of ChatGPT marked that inflection point in like the rate of improvement where we're starting to just like skyrocket upwards, like just exponential improvement. And, since GPT-4, we haven't seen anything like super crazy come out, but GPT-4 was released, 4 or 5 months ago. And so that's really not that long ago. And we're already seeing a lot of more crazy stuff come out. So I think we're definitely in just like the area of very rapid improvement, and things are only going to get a lot weirder.
Yeah.
Oh. To kind of transition that, some stuff that's also starting to progress pretty quickly. The Tesla Optimus Robot, they just put out some updates. Um, let's see, what day was this? 3 days ago. Uh, a new demo for this robot. Um, it's now to the point where it runs fully on a neural network, meaning there's no like hard coded software or anything. It's just everything is AI. Like they feed it, they feed the AI videos, and it learns based on the videos that it's being fed. Um, and so
Wow.
the demo that they put out was it can sort objects autonomously. Um, so they're clearly starting to like train it for very specific use cases within like workforces, like things that employees would need to do that are very like probably boring and monotonous tasks, like sorting or like moving packages certain places.
Yeah.
They're starting out with stuff like that, and then um, it's weird to think that they only announced this like a year ago, and they already have a very solid working demo that is like pretty impressive. um, Seems to be pretty smart within, at least based on like how long it's been available. Um, So it's a whole other aspect of AI that like people aren't even really thinking about. It's like robotics.
Yeah. You know who needs to be thinking about this? The auto workers.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which we
Which we
will,
can, yeah, we could save that for later. But
yeah. That's, jeez.
no, that thing's crazy. It literally looks like I'm watching the video right now. The demo it literally looks like a scene out of Ex Machina.
Yeah.
That it's freaky. And, like I couldn't imagine being that guy, just like interacting with it. That would be weird.
I think what a lot of people don't realize when they see videos like this is any robotics demos that we've seen previously, whether it's from Boston Dynamics or any of these other companies that are making robots, there is some level of AI in them, but a majority of the actions they're doing are hard coded, meaning like they are specifically programmed to do whatever it is you're seeing them do. Whereas this demo that Tesla put out, it isn't programmed specifically to do anything that it's doing. It's just AI. Like think of AI as like the brain. And then they just feed it videos of the task that it needs to be doing. And then what you see in the video is it actually thinking and making decisions based on its environment in real
Yeah.
time. I
So
think that's the big kicker that people aren't really like
Oh, because that
grasping here.
is essentially what we do exactly as humans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Brett Weinstein and Heather Heying on the Dark Horse podcast. They're evolutionary biologists, and they talk about it all the time. Not specifically in relation to AI, but like for years, I've heard them talk about how there's like the human hardware, but then there's it's our software, our ability to like adjust to environments.
Yeah.
Our software's ability that allows us to adjust to environments is like a huge advantage, and potentially it's the thing that like I think it might be very specific. That's a very specific ability to humanity, I think. But regardless, yeah, that the fact that that's what's going on in this robot is very cool and again just I guess frightening. But
Yeah. Because theoretically, I mean, as it gets more and more advanced and like the compute power in this robot grows more, so it can do more complex and advanced tasks. Like you can train it to do whatever you want. Um, it's like a it's like a child in a way. Like you just kind of put it in whatever environment, and it's gonna observe and like pick up on things and learn over time.
yeah,
Um,
what if it's hooked to the internet too, and like then it can Google, not Google, but whatever it can draw whatever it
yeah,
needs from the internet, and then it learns that way too. I mean, then it can do whatever.
yeah. At that point, it's like it. That's when things get even a whole new level of scary. Is when it has the capability of like critical thinking, and then also has the ability to instantly like research for additional knowledge and teach itself. That's when like things are basically out of our control at that point because like right now it's a very specific thing. Like they're feeding the AI videos of exactly what they want it to do. And so that's only really what it's going to do, you know? But at the point that it can kind of teach itself and kind of go out on its own, we don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, because think of it as like a child. Like you have a certain amount of period or a certain period of time where the child only does what you want it to do. Essentially, I mean, I know that like they're terrible twos and stuff, but uh, you have a lot of say in what that child does. And more than
Yeah.
likely, the kid's gonna solely focus on that. But like once it hits like 12, once a person turns
Mhm.
12, they're kind of like, all right, well, I'm just gonna do my own thing
They
and
develop their own interests.
yeah. So I mean, that will because my understanding is that these things are like their intelligence systems, like we said, are a lot like ours. So it seems like a likely possibility that at one point they're just going to be like, like, thanks, but I got it.
That's it. Right, right. Yeah. I do think that's a bit like pretty far away, several years, but it's something to consider for sure. I mean, that's the whole issue with like AI alignment. That's the argument people are making. It's like, how do we make sure the AI's goals are aligned with humanity's to where it's going to be productive and that they're not going to do more harm than they are good.
Eh. Well, yeah. I mean, probably like it's probably safe to assume we can't ensure that, but like if the so like let's say this Optimus uh keeps developing to where it reaches that point, but then OpenAI uh further develops to where we integrate with it and in a localized fashion, well, then we'll essentially just be the same as the robots, uh, I think,
Mhm.
and that seems like a okay scenario. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I find super interesting is I think most people would probably agree that like OpenAI is the most advanced AI company right now. But in my opinion, it's probably Tesla, just because all the AI that they are producing is like real world AI, like
it's
teaching,
functional.
yeah, whether it's driving or robots, they're teaching, they're creating a system that can be used in the real world and so it can interact within the environment. Like ChatGPT can't do that. It's text based. Everything they feed it is text based. Whereas I think is I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier than the video aspect because like interacting with the world, that's super complex as compared to just like creating text, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool to see like I want to see what kind of synergy there's going to be between Tesla and then like Elon's new company XAI because they're basically one and the same, I feel like. Um and they're going to just kind of like a lot of the employees there's going to be overlap between. So, yeah, I'm really curious to see what that is exactly is going to look like. And I think like it wouldn't be hard for the them to add like a language model to the Optimus robot, for example. Like they could make their own or use GPT-4 or whatever. But where the real value I think comes from, or the majority of the value comes from, is actually having an AI system that can learn based on real world observations and like go out in the world and, do things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure who's got the leg up at the moment, but I, I guess it's probably a good thing that there's at least two, three, three big companies in the running. Oh, I haven't heard much from Google, like what Google, I guess, and Apple so far. But
Yeah. And
have you
now,
seen any? Has that VR thing that Apple released? Like, is it in production? Like, have people bought it yet and used it?
no, it doesn't come out, I think, until next year.
Yeah, okay.
But it's basically in the phase where, like, when Apple releases a new platform, it goes through this period where they make all of the tech accessible to developers. And so developers are building stuff for Vision Pro right now. And I think they give them, 6 to 12 month window or whatever. So by the time it does come out next year, there's already going to be a lot of apps and stuff that you can use with this. So I've seen some videos pop up every now and then from developers that are working on stuff, but it's still pretty quiet. But I think next year we'll see a lot more stuff about what exactly that can do. And then to mention another company that just is now making big moves in AI, Amazon invested $4 billion into Anthropic, which is another AI company. And we haven't heard anything from Amazon really regarding AI at all until this deal was happened. So now we've got, you know, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple has mentioned some stuff, but like basically all of the major companies now are putting significant money into AI. Um, so tons of resources just piling into that space right now. I'm curious to see what exactly Amazon or how exactly Amazon is going to uh, utilize this technology.
Yeah. Looks essentially just like it's going to be used to just improve like the operations of Amazon at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's a similar deal to what Microsoft did with OpenAI.
Okay.
They're basically going to let them use, like, Amazon will let Anthropic use their infrastructure of like servers and everything to help power the model. And then also they use all the capital to, be able to hire and expand. And so, yeah, it's still early stages, but we're at that place where it's weird to think like things are already kind of getting crazy with AI, and then now we have all of the major companies entering and investing across all of them. I mean, tens of billions of dollars. So we're in for a very interesting ride over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Um, do you want to touch on that Neuralink trial?
Yeah. Um, Let me pull up the announcement really quick. So Neuralink just announced recently, last week, that they're doing their first in-human clinical trial, or at least they opened up recruitment for it. So basically, what they're looks like they're wanting to do is find someone that is, I think, a quadriplegic, and they'll implant the Neuralink chip into this person's brain. It'd be the first human ever with this chip. Like as of now, they've tested on like monkeys and I think pigs and stuff, but now this will be the first in human trial. Um, and the study will take 6 years to complete, and they're basically they want to give someone the ability, like quadriplegic, give them the ability to. I- I'm not even sure really. I guess they want it to like. Let's see. I'm reading the announcement thing here. I guess just try to give them as much of a normal life as they can again. Whether it's maybe they hook up robotic parts to the person and then use the Neuralink chip to kind of interact with this to give them the ability to like have arms and potentially legs again. That would be crazy. Or people
Yeah,
that can't speak, give them the ability to maybe it's just a speaker that they attach to them that allows them to, it's not them speaking obviously, but they can at least think and then have the speaker put out whatever they're trying to say. Um,
that would be
it's just,
that would be crazy. Um, it was my understanding that the Neuralink. I didn't know there'd be like external parts for the necessary for a quadriplegic to have function again of their limbs.
I guess it depends on, I mean, I'm clearly not an expert on this, but I guess it would depend on like if someone was recently paralyzed, then maybe they could reestablish that connection. But if someone's like been paralyzed the majority of their life, then, you know, odds are they aren't going to have like the muscles and bone density needed to like actually have operational limbs.
Oh, I gotcha.
Um, but at the very least, I think what they're starting out with is, if someone is quadriplegic, they can't use their arms, so they're gonna want to like give them they have no way of interacting with technology, which is like a big part of our lives, obviously. So they can't like communicate people through text or anything like they can't surf the web without help, anything. So I think they'll basically start out with putting this into their brain and allowing them to interact with the computer wirelessly just within your mind.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Starting out relatively basic like that and then progress as things go on. Um, but yeah, I think we've covered basically all of our AI topics, and you mentioned earlier about the automakers potentially having issues when it comes to robotics. So just to kind of intro this, the um, the UAW, which is the United Auto Workers, have basically demanded some. The union has basically wanted to. They made a lot of demands to auto companies such as like Ford, GM, um, and just to kind of outline what their proposal is, the union is demanding a 40% increase in hourly pay over 4 years. Um, they want a 4-day work week, 32 hours per week, faster path to top pay, um, more, let's see, cost of living adjustments, and then 5 more weeks of vacation, more paid holidays, extended parental leave. So they paid some pretty crazy demands, in my opinion. And what we've seen over the past week is the automakers aren't really budging on this. And so now all the union workers are going on strike, and these factories are now having to shut down because people just aren't showing up. Um, and I think, I mean, what's your take on all of this? Because in my opinion, it's going to be catastrophic for automakers that are like primarily union controlled.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see how they can incorporate any of these demands. Maybe the cost of living. um, Shift back to defined benefit pensions. Well, kind of what I just Googled the, like the average full-time work schedule of, uh, Europeans, because I know they're kind of like on the leading edge of, shorter work weeks and stuff. But here it says
Yeah.
they average like 37 to 41 hours. So it's pretty similar to what we have. So I want to know where they came up with the 32-hour work week. Uh, I'm, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I've heard of like 410s, which is that's not a bad week to work. Still get your 40 hours in and get that third day off. But 32 hours, I mean, that's just like, that's insane. And I don't know
Yeah.
how they came up with it, why they think they're going to get it. I mean, honestly, it's kind of like, yeah, I would want a 32-hour work week, but honestly, like, it's a little embarrassing that they asked. Doesn't look good for them.
No, not at all. And
It's like, damn, boys, get to work.
yeah. And I'm more like on the side of, you know, capitalism and innovation. And this is just the exact opposite of that. Like, I think unions, whenever they started out, they were definitely warranted given the environment at that time. But now I think they're primarily being used to just like mostly I don't think they're really being used to benefit the workers all that much. It's more just the unions themselves. Like they make an absurd amount of money from these deals. Like they get direct profit share from these automakers. They take a percentage of the salaries that they're negotiating for employees. Like I think it's somewhat it's like a it's like mafia ran in a way. Like they're gonna make these demands and you're either gonna give them to us or none of your employees are gonna show up. Um
Yeah.
like that's
It's
just
like it's a racket in a way.
yeah. Like I
Yeah.
think if you're if you treat your employees so poorly that they feel the need to unionize and like rebel against you, that in itself is a problem. Like you don't see this happening at companies like Apple, Amazon, Tesla. They are just having these massive strikes constantly. But for whatever reason, the automakers have always really struggled with it. And I think it's primarily just due to the fact that it's a very outdated business that hasn't really um, innovated much within the last 100 years. Like these, like Ford and GM, like they aren't making very much money at all anymore. They're like glorified banks in a way. Like they actually lose money on the vehicles they produce. The only way they make money is by just loaning out money for the vehicles themselves, or like interest on leases. And that's not a sustainable business model at all. Like if you don't even make money on your product itself, like when your costs rise, you're just going to get even more screwed. And so
Did you see
they've
that
already been, what was that?
in the comments on this thread that there was a guy who owns a Ford dealership in, I think, New Jersey, and he said, like, yeah, here we go. Tom Moali, a Ford dealership owner in New Jersey, expects to raise his prices by 20% once the strike continues for 2 weeks. So, I mean, not directly related to your point, but just interesting. And
Well, that's another thing too, is like, if you're increasing the costs for these companies, they're, the point that they're trying to make is like, you're going to treat your employees better. They're going to make more money. But really what's going to happen is like, yeah, maybe they do end up paying their employees more and giving into the demands, but then they have to raise prices on all their vehicles. So it really just kind of negates itself. Like it's going to harm
yeah,
other people. You're just kind of distributing the harm.
yeah, it's the minimum wage argument.
Right.
if you raise minimum wage, great, it's $15 an hour, but goodbye all the minimum wage jobs. So
Yeah.
it's that's another good Brett and Heather quote. It's something like, it's there's no win-wins in nature. It's just like trades. What's what's worth what's yeah. Yeah, trades. You get something, but you give something up.
Yeah. And I don't see this happening. I don't see any way that it can happen, but it's a double-edged sword here because they're making these crazy demands, and clearly automakers aren't budging at the moment. So everyone's going on strike. There's just massive floods of people leaving these factories. They're having to shut down. And so now the automakers are losing even more money because no one's showing up. And these employees that are primarily hourly wage workers aren't making money either while they're on strike. And
Yeah.
so
Think about
it's
the
like,
economic effects of the that has on the local community. I mean, if like I know here, like factories make up a large percentage of our population here in Evansville, whether it be Alcoa or Toyota or Berry.
yeah,
If those guys, if every single one of those guys stopped making money, then there'd be a lot less money being spent in Evansville, and it would just harm everybody. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know how this is going to shake out, but it's not going to benefit anyone at the end of the day. And I hate to say it, but I think it's a bit of a necessary thing for companies like this that just aren't able to continuously innovate over time. Like you're going to hit a point, which I think they're hitting right now, where all of the laziness that they've had over the past several decades is starting to backfire on them. Um, like you, that's just the way capitalism works in America. Like you have to keep up or things are going to start collapsing and breaking. And that's kind of what's happening to them right now. Like, especially with this transition to electric vehicles, which they have to do if they want to survive. They've already struggled with it. Like they have EVs. No one's really buying them. That even the people that do buy them, they lose a ton of money on these EVs because they aren't able to make enough to make them profitably. And so they're already in a very, very poor position to not go bankrupt over the next several years. And then now you have these union strikes that are happening at the same time. Like I think this is like this is going to accelerate the collapse of these companies, in my opinion. And I feel like it does suck and a lot of people are going to lose jobs, but it's just kind of how
yeah.
our economy
So
works. Like you have to get rid of the old companies and make room for the new ones.
yeah, there's I'm recognizing like a biblical theme in this. So in the Bible, it says like, you can't store your treasures here on earth and uh, donate. A lot of people interpret this one line as like you should donate your money to charity, like, and only have enough on hand to like keep your day to day operations alive. But what I think it means is not necessarily donate to charity, but like invest it. You should only keep enough money to around to keep your day to day operations alive. The rest should be invested in things that are going to make the future better. Um, and so, like Ford, yeah, I don't know their finances, and I don't know if this is actually what's happening, but I think it's easy to imagine a situation where Ford, for the last 100 years, has just been raking in their money, keeping it, um, instead of investing it into things like EVs and trying to like play the big picture. And I think that's what's happening is they're paying the price for that.
Yeah, absolutely. They really like there hasn't been any major advancements in the auto industry since the original Ford assembly line. Like that nothing crazy has happened since then, which is not good for an industry at all when you think about it. Like that's 100 plus years that no major advancements have been made in.
Yeah.
Um,
It's actually
Like, yes,
crazy
cars
when you
have gotten
compare.
bigger.
Well, it's actually crazy that lack of innovation compared to today in like AI, where we
Exactly.
just see like innovation every week.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you compare it to a company like Tesla, for example. If you compare what their vehicles looked like, when Tesla first started making vehicles compared to now, it's like a complete world of a difference. It's like we're seeing the same level of innovation that like Apple used to do, where they're just like completely changing the game, and other companies just aren't able to keep up with that. And I think, like I said, it is unfortunate that this is happening, but it's just kind of a necessary evil, in my opinion. And you know, I I'm not sure that I'm not. I don't think Ford and GM are going to survive long term. I think they'll definitely hit rock bottom here within the next several years, and maybe maybe we'll see another government bailout. Who knows?
So this would be a thing Elon Musk should be paying attention to, if he's at all interested in the long term picture of Tesla, like Tesla beyond his time. He should somehow work that into the foundation of the company, because I'm sure what happened was, as Ford became the cash cow that it was, uh, people just its investors, its board members were all just making decisions based on keeping it as steady as possible, low risk, still lots of money. Um, but it seems like, if you can somehow get it built into the foundation of a company, it's like, no, we're always going to be on the leading edge of innovation.
Yeah,
Yeah, that seems to be the move.
I agree, and I think the bad part about that, unfortunately, is that the only reason this high level of innovation exists at Tesla or Elon's companies in general is because of Elon himself. Like, he is the main driver of this culture within his companies, to where they constantly are just like pushing the boundaries, uh, doing whatever they can to innovate the highest level. And we saw this with Apple and Steve Jobs. It was the same thing. And now look at what Apple does since Steve Jobs has passed.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything crazy innovative since that. Um,
Another example is Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast, if you listen to his podcast with Lex, you hear that every dime he makes, he reinvests into his
yeah,
videos. I mean, says obviously his net worth is through the roof, but like the image I had was that he himself at that very moment is broke in terms of like accessible cash, which I'm sure that's not true, but uh,
right.
it's true to a certain degree. But yeah, that model, that's the model to follow. Uh, I think.
Yeah. So I think it'll be very hard for him to maintain that level of innovation when he can no longer do that himself. Like, he gets old. He can't be the guy that's always there walking like in the factory for 14 hours a day, like making sure things, you know, are progressing as quickly as they can. Because like Apple now that they've brought in Tim Cook as a CEO, who's a great CEO from like an operational standpoint. Like, Apple literally just prints money. They grow very predictably year over year. They don't do anything crazy risky. Um, which that I guess that's what shareholders want in a company of that size, but that's not how you drive innovation for the world. Um, so my guess would be that, once it does get to that stage for Elon where he can't be that main guy anymore, Tesla and SpaceX might fall more into that category of what Apple does now, to where they're massive companies, they print tons of money, but they don't push the boundaries near as much as they used to. And I hope that
Yeah,
doesn't happen, but I think that's just a natural course of companies when you have someone as
yeah.
crazy as Steve Jobs or Elon leading the helm.
Your yeah, yeah. It seems. I think for that to happen, for Tesla to keep this innovative path, another like 1 in 3 billion person, a very
Yeah.
rare breed of person would somehow have to find their way to Tesla and fill Elon's his spot. So that's
Yeah.
probably unlikely.
Yeah. I would agree because there's not very many people that are as crazy as he is that are willing to endure that much pain. Like
Yeah,
this dude works 14, 16 hours a day, every single day, like sleeps in the factory. Like no, it's not very often people come around that are willing to do that for decades at a time. And
yeah.
also just be like as intelligent as he is. Like that also doesn't really happen. So yeah, well,
But
yeah, I don't,
the I mean the odds of that person finding Tesla are low, but I would say the odds of another person like that coming to the top uh in
yeah,
some other fashion is probably still high. So
yeah, for
we
sure.
might see Tesla fall, but something else will come up. So
Yeah, definitely. And to wrap things up here, there's one more topic I wanted to go over, which I thought was a bit interesting, just to kind of give. Uh, so it's the U.S. Census data that just got released, and it gives like a good idea of just what the current state of our economy is. And so, U.S. incomes have fallen every single year of the Biden presidency. Uh, Median income fell has been falling year over year as well. The poverty rate has gone up to 12.4%, which this is the first increase since 2010. And then, and what I thought was interesting too was income inequality has actually gone down. Uh, so basically, to summarize all of that,
that hold on, I think that is in reference to salary. So like the top earners don't make as much, or what the top earners make now per year isn't as high compared to what the bottom earners made per year. Like however long ago. But according to this comment here, the uh hold on, what's it called? Their the wealth gap has increased. So the top earners, their savings have or whatever, their net worths have increased, while the bottom rungs of the spectrum have decreased. Does that make sense? It's a
yeah,
pretty simple concept that I just like made so complex, but
no, no, I get what you're saying. Basically, the higher income people are making everyone is making less money, essentially. Everyone's making less money, which is bad. But the
mm,
higher income people are making even more less than the lower income people. Like they're being more drastically affected, which I don't think is because that's how you get the income inequality
yeah,
gap to
I gotcha.
decrease.
Yeah.
Basically, the richer people are being harmed more than the poorer people, but the poorer people are also being harmed. So
Yes. And also their assets are continually increasing, though.
yeah,
So the wealth gap is still growing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I so basically, I mean,
But
summarizing
to
this,
caveat that, that is
yeah,
based off a comment. And I don't actually know that for sure, but it seems very believable. I mean,
yeah. Let's see. Okay, actually, so this thread, by the way, was written by Chamath Palihapitiya, which is he's a big business economist guy. So he actually said that the wealth gap shrank according to the Census Bureau. It didn't increase. Uh,
yeah. And then do you see that Cristiano Borio? This is income gap, not wealth gap.
what is he saying? The income gap. So the income gap shrank. We know that, but what about the wealth gap? I think
Yeah.
the wealth gap also shrank what
Okay.
I'm reading. Um, so essentially,
So
yeah,
it's essentially ignore everything I just said.
everyone is making less money, but the richer people are being affected more than the lower income people. Um, which I think is what Biden wants because he does want to shrink the wealth gap. But I think this is even more harmful because most of the innovation that benefits everyone comes from these higher income people. And so
Well, also,
you're just making
he's
everyone better off or worse off as a
yeah,
whole, as opposed to lifting people up.
yeah. Who cares what the gap is if it results in poor people suffering more? You're not. That's not better.
Yeah.
It's just relatively better. Which, based off what I know, is actually the thing that matters. Like, if you're dirt poor and your neighbors are, what would it be? Uh, like mildly rich, you're gonna be happy, or in that scenario, versus a scenario where you're like middle class, but your neighbor is like Bill Gates, because you're gonna, be comparing yourself to them. So it is psychologically a better scenario, but it's not actually a better scenario.
Yeah. Not only are these policies that Biden has put in lowering the ceiling, they're also lowering the floor at the same
Yeah,
time. Where what I think he wants to do is lower the ceiling and raise the floor, which I also don't agree with, but I think that's what he wants to do. When in reality, we should be raising the ceiling, raising the floor,
yeah.
and that's just not happening. So I
Well,
think this is worst case scenario is what is happening, basically.
oh yeah, but you know that he's probably gonna present it as, well, I've closed the gap on wealth. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
sure, buddy,
There's no
sure.
point in closing the gap if you're just destroying everyone in the process.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but like, I'm pretty sure when you get to that level of the economic ladder, it's like even the slightest decrease in their wealth just like has tremendous effects.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
probably losing their housing, so on and so forth. I mean, it's probably very bad.
Yeah. I mean, if you're absolute paycheck to paycheck, maxed out on debt, I mean, $100 increase or decrease in your monthly income, that's like, okay, I now have to eat less in order to not lose my house. Like
Yeah.
from something is that little, just, $100 a month. So yeah, ultimately this is, it's bad. But like this is, I'm surprised more people aren't talking about this because I don't think we saw this under like the Trump presidency at all. I think we saw the exact opposite. I don't know that for a fact, but um,
No,
this is like
I would believe
rough.
that. And another thing, the low gas prices and energy prices we saw under Trump, that in
Yeah.
combination with their seemingly higher incomes, probably like their lives were probably unbelievably better under Trump.
Yeah. And I will give Biden the caveat of the worldwide pandemic that happens. That definitely has some level of influence on these numbers. However, there's no excuse for what has happened. Like we pumped tons of money into these COVID packages that were supposed to help people. And the crazy thing is the poverty rate includes, government transfer payments, like the stimulus checks. It includes that. So not all, like that means the poverty rate actually rose more, or sorry, the poverty rate actually, yeah, it actually, the only reason it, I think
Is
about
it
it, word
worse?
this, yeah, the only reason it isn't worse is because of these, stimulus payments. So without those, it would have been even it'd be a lot more worse. And so, yeah, just complete failure of policy, basically. I butchered the explanation for that, but
Yeah. We're not
like I
economists.
get
Well, that's pretty clear.
no, but my point is, I understand there being some negative effect on these numbers because of everything that happened with, companies shutting down, like there's being less travel, uh, people working less than they used to. But regardless, like the amount of money that we put into these stimulus payments and also the amount of money that we're dumping into like Ukraine when we could just not spending that money or
Did you see all
putting it
that?
into our
Like our
economy. Like there's
Yeah, yeah. And like I didn't read super far into it, but I saw a bunch of stuff about how our money that we're sending to Ukraine's like going to all this other stuff outside of the war. It's like the policies and things we should be supporting in our own country for people who desperately need those things. We're like just doing that for Ukrainians and
yeah.
fail to see how that is appropriate.
I don't it is it may it is embarrassing, really. Like I don't get how we numbers like this come out for everyone to see and the government is still just like, "Yep, here's another 50 billion to Ukraine."
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense at all.
It,
Like there's no
no,
way to justify it at all.
no, no. They're clearly acting outside the interest of the American people. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah. So, I don't really have a whole lot more to add to that. I just kind of wanted to highlight like the current poor situation of our economy. I mean, I guess on the brighter side of it, we do have an election coming up, so hopefully we can get some better people in office to put in better policies. Also, the amount of innovation that's happening within AI right now makes me very optimistic as well. So, uh, I just think, in my opinion, we definitely need new people within the government for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where, like, in order to get change, things need to get really bad because otherwise the change just wouldn't happen. Uh, I think that's something to keep in mind. Like, yeah, we have all these uh, bad aspects of our government and whatever else, whatever other problems we have going on, and it's like, yeah, that sucks. But out of that is what comes the good stuff. The good stuff doesn't just happen of its own fruition more often than not. So there's reasons to be positive for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's a necessary evil, I guess. Uh,
Yes.
Just another down phase of our economy. I mean, another reference would be like all the great things that happened after our financial collapse in '08. Like it's just we learn from these bad times, and as long as we don't completely collapse as a country, then like things are going to be good in the long run. So, yeah.